Admiral Una Park stood alone on the command bridge of the UES Titan's Wrath. The ship was quiet. Most of the crew was sleeping. But Una never slept well in deep space. She liked to watch the stars through the massive viewing windows. Tonight, the stars looked different. Tonight, something was coming. The Titan's Wrath was not like other ships. It was the largest warship humanity had ever built. 12 kilometers long. That was longer than most cities back on Earth. The ship had enough weapons to destroy moons. It had enough soldiers to conquer planets. But for 200 years, humanity had kept it hidden. They had kept all their great ships hidden. The galaxy did not know what humans had become. Una was 63 years old. She had spent her whole life preparing for this moment. Her grandmother had started building the first Colossal-Class Warship. Her mother had finished it, and now Una commanded it. 3 generations of the park. Family had given everything to protect humanity from the dangers of space. The door behind her opened with a soft sound. First Officer J. Kim walked onto the bridge. He was a tall man with gray hair and calm eyes. He had served with Una for 20 years. She trusted him more than anyone else in the fleet. "Admiral," Jay said, "we have detected alien signatures at the edge of the sector." Una did not turn around. She had been expecting this. "How many ships?" 40. They matched the profile of Velthrani scout vessels. The Velthrani. Una knew them well, even though she had never met one. Humanity had been watching the galaxy for 2 centuries. They had sent tiny probes to every corner of known space. They had listened to alien communications. They had learned everything they could about the species that ruled the stars. The Velthrani were conquerors. They had taken dozens of worlds from weaker species. They were proud and cruel. They believed they were the strongest warriors in the galaxy. They had never lost a war. "Wake the senior staff," Una said, "and send for Ambassador Choi." Jay nodded and left the bridge. Una finally turned away from the stars. She walked to her command chair and sat down. The chair was made of dark metal and soft leather. It had been designed for her body. She would probably die in this chair someday. But not today. The bridge came alive as officers took their stations. Screens lit up with information. Voices filled the air as crew members reported their status. The Titan's Wrath was waking up. Ambassador Hannah Choi arrived 10 minutes later. She was a small woman with short black hair and sharp eyes. She wore a simple gray uniform with the symbol of Earth on her shoulder. Hannah had spent 30 years studying alien cultures. She knew how to talk to them. She knew how to make them listen. "The Velthrani," Hannah said when Jay told her the news. "This will be interesting." "They will try to frighten us," Una said. "That is what they always do. And what will we do?" Una smiled. It was a small smile, but it held no warmth. "We will show them what fear really means." The alien fleet dropped out of hyperspace 1 hour later. 40 ships appeared in the darkness like angry fireflies. They were elegant vessels, built for speed and war. Each one was about 2 kilometers long. The Velthrani had brought enough firepower to conquer a small colony, but they had not come to conquer. They had come to investigate. Humanity had finally expanded beyond their home system. The Galactic Council wanted to know if these primitive apes were a threat. The lead Velthrani ship sent a transmission. The bridge crew put it on the main screen. A face appeared. It was not human. The Velthrani had blue skin and 4 eyes. They had no hair. Their mouths were wide and filled with small, sharp teeth. This one wore golden armor that marked him as a high-ranking officer. "Attention, unknown vessel," the alien said. His voice was translated by the ship's computers. "I am Counselor Dreth of the Velthrani Empire. You have entered space claimed by the Galactic Council. Identify yourself and prepare to be boarded." Una looked at Hannah. The ambassador nodded. Open a channel, Una said. Communications Officer Nari Lee pressed several buttons on her console. Channel open, Admiral. Una stood up from her chair. She straightened her uniform and faced the screen. Counselor Dreth, I am Admiral Una Park of the United Earthship Titan's Wrath. We are not in council space. We are in human space. You are the ones who have entered without permission. Dreth laughed. It was an ugly sound. Human space? There is no human space. Your kind has no claim to anything beyond your pathetic little planet. The Council decided this 200 years ago. The Council decided many things without asking us, Una said. Those decisions no longer matter. Dreth leaned forward. His four eyes narrowed with anger. You dare to challenge the Council? You are one ship. I have 40. Surrender now, and your crew will be treated as prisoners. Resist, and you will be destroyed. Una said nothing. She simply pressed a button on her command chair. Outside, in the darkness of space, the Titan's wrath began to change. Giant lights along its hull switched on, one section at a time. The ship had been hiding in the shadows, showing only a small part of itself. Now the truth was revealed. The lights spread across 12 kilometers of metal and weapons. They showed gun batteries the size of buildings. They showed missile tubes that could launch 1,000 warheads at once. They showed hangars that held hundreds of smaller warships. The Titan's Wrath was not just a ship. It was a mobile fortress. It was a weapon of war that the galaxy had never seen before. On the Velthrani Bridge, Dreth stopped laughing. His officers stared at their screens in disbelief. Their sensors were going crazy. The human vessel was impossible. It was bigger than their entire fleet combined. What? What is this? Dreth whispered. Una's voice came through the speakers, calm and cold. This is the Titan's Wrath, Counselor, and she is the smallest of all Colossal-Class Warships. Now, would you like to repeat your threat? Or would you like to talk? Dreth did not answer. He could not answer. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Behind him, his crew was panicking. Some were praying to gods whose names humans would never know. Others were simply frozen with fear. J. Kim leaned close to Admiral Park. I think we have their attention. Yes, Una said. I believe we do. She sat back down in her command chair and waited. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity was no longer hiding. The long silence was over, and the Titan's Wrath had announced their arrival with a message that no species could ignore. The age of human isolation had ended. The age of human power had begun. Counselor Dreth could not believe what he was seeing. His four eyes moved from screen to screen, trying to understand. The human ship was impossible. Nothing that big should exist. Nothing that big could exist. Yet there it was, floating in the darkness like a sleeping monster. Run the sensors again, Dreth ordered. His sensor officer, a young Velthrani named Voss, shook his head. I have run them 5 times, Counselor. The readings are accurate. The human vessel is 12 kilometers long. It has over 3,000 weapon systems. Its hull is made of materials we cannot identify. That cannot be right. Our largest battleship is 4 kilometers. No species builds vessels this size. The humans did. Dreth slammed his fist against his command console. The metal dented under his strength. The Velthrani were physically powerful. They had conquered dozens of worlds with their strength and their advanced weapons. They had never met a species they could not defeat. But now, looking at the Titan's Wrath, Dreth felt something he had not felt in many years. He felt afraid. On the human ship, Admiral Una Park watched the Velthrani fleet with calm eyes. She knew what Dreth was feeling. She had planned for this moment her entire life. Her grandmother had designed the Colossal-Class Warship specifically to create this reaction. Fear was a weapon, and humanity had just fired their first shot. The Velthrani are holding position, First Officer J. Kim reported. They have not armed their weapons. They are smart, Ambassador Hana Choi said. They know they cannot win a fight. Smart but proud, Yuna replied. The Velthrani have never retreated from anything. Dreth will not be the first to run. He needs an excuse to leave without losing his honor. Then we will give him one. Yuna nodded. She pressed a button on her chair. Captain Taesong to the bridge. Taesong arrived 2 minutes later. He was the ship's weapons officer, a man of 50 with strong arms and a serious face. Tae had spent his career learning everything about the Titan's Wrath's weapons. He knew exactly how much destruction each one could cause. He knew which targets required which weapons. He was an artist of destruction, and the ship's guns were his brushes. Admiral, Tae said, standing at attention. What do you need? A demonstration, Captain. Something impressive but not deadly. I want to show our guests what we can do without starting a war. Tae thought for a moment. His eyes moved to the tactical display. It showed the positions of all ships in the area. It also showed nearby planets, moons, and asteroids. There, Tae said, pointing to a small moon about 300,000 kilometers away. Uninhabited. No strategic value. One shot from our secondary batteries would vaporize it completely. Secondary batteries? Han asked. Not the main guns? Tae smiled. It was not a kind smile. Admiral Park said she wanted something impressive. If I used the main guns, there would be nothing left to impress. The secondary batteries are what we use for mining operations, breaking apart asteroids for resources. But they should be more than enough for this. Yuna looked at the moon on the display. It was a dead rock, gray and lifeless. No one would miss it. But its destruction would send a message that words could never match. Do it, she said. Tae walked to his station and sat down. His fingers moved across the controls with practiced ease. Deep in the ship, massive machines came to life. Power flowed through cables thicker than trees. A gun turret the size of a skyscraper rotated slowly until it pointed at the distant moon. Target locked, Tae announced. Firing in 3, 2, 1. The Titan's Wrath shuddered as the gun fired. A beam of pure energy shot across space at nearly the speed of light. It crossed 300,000 kilometers in about 1 second. It hit the moon dead center. The moon exploded. There was no sound in space, but everyone watching felt it anyway. The entire moon, a rock nearly 1,000 kilometers across, simply ceased to exist. It became dust and fire and light. The explosion was so bright that sensors on both fleets automatically dimmed to protect their operators. On the Velthrani bridge, no one spoke. No one moved. They stared at their screens as the debris cloud spread through space where the moon used to be. Their minds could not process what they had just seen. Voss was the first to find his voice. Counselor. That shot came from a secondary battery. Their mining equipment. Dreth understood what that meant. If the humans used mining tools to destroy moons, what could their actual weapons do? What could their primary batteries do? He did not want to find out. Communications Officer Nari Lee sent a message to the Velthrani fleet. Her voice was polite but firm. Attention Velthrani vessels. That was a demonstration of our mining equipment. Admiral Park wants to know if you would like to see our weapons. No response came. The Velthrani fleet sat in complete silence. On every ship, crews were staring at empty space where a moon had been. Some were crying. Some were praying. Some had simply stopped thinking, their minds broken by what they had witnessed. 7 minutes passed. Then Counselor Dreth's face appeared on the communication screen again. He looked different now. The arrogance was gone from his eyes. The confidence had left his voice. He looked like a man who had seen his own death. "Admiral Park," Dreth said slowly, "I request permission to withdraw my fleet. I must report these events to the Galactic Council." Una leaned back in her chair. She had won this first battle without firing a single shot in anger. The Velthrani were retreating. They would tell the Council about the Titan's wrath. They would tell every species in the galaxy that humanity was no longer weak. "Permission granted, Counselor," Una said. "But we will follow you to the Council. We have waited 200 years to speak with the other species of this galaxy. We will not wait any longer." Dreth nodded quickly. He was afraid to argue. "Of course, Admiral. The Council will. The Council will want to meet you." The transmission ended. The Velthrani fleet began to turn around. Their engines lit up as they prepared to jump into hyperspace. They moved faster than Una had ever seen Velthrani ships move. They were running. The mighty conquerors of a dozen worlds were running from a single human ship. J. Kim stood beside the Admiral's chair. "That went well." "It was only the beginning," Una said. "The Council has 17 species. Some are like the Velthrani, proud and warlike. Others are peaceful traders. A few are ancient beyond our understanding. They will not all react the same way. What do you expect?" Una thought about the question. She had studied the Council for decades. She knew their histories, their conflicts, their fears. She knew that some would want peace with humanity. Others would want war. And a few would simply want to understand these strange creatures who had built impossible ships in the darkness. "I expect chaos," she finally said. "But chaos can be useful. In chaos, there is opportunity. And humanity has been waiting for an opportunity for 200 years. She pressed a button on her chair. "All hands, this is Admiral Park. Prepare for hyperspace jump. We are going to meet the Galactic Council. Make sure you look your best. We want to make a good first impression." The crew laughed at her small joke. But everyone understood the seriousness of what was coming. In a few days, they would face the rulers of the galaxy. They would demand respect. They would demand equality. And if the Council refused, they would show them what happened to those who underestimated humanity. The Titan's wrath entered hyperspace, following the fleeing Velthrani fleet toward the heart of galactic civilization. History was being made, and every human on board knew they were part of something that would be remembered forever. Nexus Prime was the center of galactic civilization. It was not a planet. It was a station, built thousands of years ago by species that no longer existed. The station was the size of a small moon. Millions of aliens lived there, from 17 different species. They traded, they argued, and they made the laws that governed the galaxy. The Galactic Council met in a great hall at the heart of Nexus Prime. The hall was circular, with seats rising up like the inside of a bowl. Each species had its own section. Each section was decorated to match their home world. There were cold sections for species from ice planets. There were hot sections for species from desert worlds. There were even sections filled with water for species that could not breathe air. Today, the hall was full. Every seat was taken. Every representative was present. They had been called for an emergency meeting, something that had not happened in over 50 years. The reason for this meeting was simple. The humans were coming. High Counselor Varix of the Dominari hegemony stood at the center of the hall. The Dominari were large creatures with gray skin and 6 arms. They were known for their strength and their anger. Varix had ruled the council for 30 years. He did not like surprises, and the news from the Velthrani had been a very big surprise. "We will now hear the report from Councilor Dreth," Varix announced. His voice echoed through the hall. "Dreth, tell the council what you saw." Counselor Dreth stepped forward. He looked tired. He had not slept since his encounter with the Titan's wrath. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that moon exploding. He saw his entire fleet looking like toys next to the human ship. "Thank you, High Counselor," Dreth said. His voice was weak. 3 days ago, my fleet detected a human vessel in the Orion sector. We approached to make contact and establish council authority over the region." He paused. His hands were shaking. "What we found was not what we expected." The human ship was 12 kilometers long. Our largest battleship is 4 kilometers. This human vessel was 3 times larger than anything we have ever built. Whispers spread through the hall. Representatives looked at each other in confusion. Some laughed, thinking Dreth was joking. But Dreth was not laughing. His eyes were filled with fear. "I have brought sensor recordings," Dreth continued. He pressed a button on his console. A hologram appeared in the center of the hall. It showed the Titan's wrath in perfect detail. The ship filled the space above the council floor, rotating slowly so everyone could see its massive form. The laughter stopped. The whispers died. Every alien in the hall stared at the hologram with wide eyes. "This is the U.E.'s Titan's wrath," Dreth said. "According to its commander, it is the smallest of humanity's Colossal-Class Warships." "Impossible," someone shouted from the Kethra section. The Kethra were insect-like creatures with hard shells and sharp claws. They were excellent warriors. No species can build something so large. "Your sensors were tricked." Dreth shook his head. "I wish that were true. But watch this." The hologram changed. Now it showed the moment when the Titan's wrath destroyed the moon. The beam of light crossed the darkness. The moon exploded into dust. The recording had been taken from Dreth's own bridge, and his officers could be heard screaming in terror. When the recording ended, the hall was silent. No one spoke. No one moved. The representatives of 17 species sat frozen in their seats, trying to understand what they had just seen. Varix was the first to recover. "What weapon caused that destruction?" "According to the human commander," Dreth answered, "that was their mining equipment." She offered to show us their actual weapons. I declined. More silence. Mining equipment. The humans had destroyed a moon with mining equipment. What could they do when they actually wanted to kill? Far away from Nexus Prime, on the Titan's wrath, Commander Dae-Yoon watched the council meeting through hidden cameras. Humanity had placed spy devices on Nexus Prime decades ago. They had been watching the council for years, learning their secrets, understanding their fears. Dae was the ship's intelligence officer. He knew more about alien species than most aliens knew about themselves. He had spent his life studying them, finding their weaknesses, preparing for this day. "The council is scared," Dae reported to Admiral Park. "The Dominari and Velfrani are demanding a military response. The peaceful species are calling for diplomacy. And the lore masters are saying something interesting." "The lore masters?" Yuna asked. The lore masters were the oldest species in the council. They had been traveling through space when humans were still living in caves. "What are they saying?" Their representative just asked for permission to speak. "Let me increase the volume." The hidden camera focused on the lore master section of the hall. An ancient creature rose from its seat. It was called the Witness. No one knew how old it was. Some said it had been alive for 10,000 years. Its body was thin and fragile, wrapped in robes of pure white. Its face was hidden behind a mask of silver metal. "I have something to say," the Witness announced. Its voice was like wind blowing through dead leaves. Every species in the hall fell silent. When a lore master spoke, everyone listened. "You are all afraid," the Witness continued. "This is wise. But your fear is not great enough. You do not understand what you are facing. Varix leaned forward. Explain, witness. What do you know about these humans? Nothing about the humans themselves. But I know that ship. I have seen its design before. 10,000 years ago, before any of your species left your home worlds, there was another civilization. We called them the Architects. They built the hyperspace gates that connect our galaxy. They built wonders that we still cannot understand. And they built ships. The witness pointed at the hologram of the Titan's Wrath, which was still floating above the council floor. Ships exactly like this one. The hall erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted at each other. Some demanded more information. Others called the witness a liar. The Kethra began clicking their claws in anger. The Dominari pounded their many fists against their consoles. Varix had to shout to be heard. Silence. Everyone silence. Slowly, the noise died down. Witness, are you saying that humans have architect technology? I am saying that humans have built ships using architect designs. Whether they found these designs or created them independently, I do not know. But the implications are clear. If humanity has access to architect knowledge, then all our military power means nothing. Then what do we do? A representative from the trading species called out. The witness turned its masked face toward the voice. We do what we should have done 200 years ago. We talk to them. We learn what they want. And we pray that they are more merciful than the architects were. Back on the Titan's Wrath, Admiral Park closed the video feed. She had learned everything she needed to know. The council was divided and afraid. Some wanted to fight. Some wanted to negotiate. And the ancient war masters knew something about humanity's ships that even humans did not know. Interesting, Una said. The architects. I have never heard of them. Neither have our historians, they replied. But if the lore masters are telling the truth, it means our ship designs are not original. Someone built vessels like ours thousands of years ago, and then disappeared. That is concerning. They nodded. Should we change our plans? Una thought about the question. The council was in chaos. The lore masters had just made everything more complicated. But humanity's goal remained the same. They wanted respect. They wanted equality. They wanted the galaxy to know that Earth's children were no longer weak. No, Una said. We continue as planned. Whatever the architects were, we are not them. We are human, and we will write our own story. The Titan's Wrath continued its journey toward Nexus Prime. Inside, 5,000 humans prepared for the most important meeting in their species' history. They did not know what the architects were. They did not know why their ships looked like ancient designs. But they knew one thing for certain. They were not going to let the galaxy ignore them any longer. The Titan's Wrath dropped out of hyperspace above Nexus Prime, but it did not come alone. Chief Engineer Suhan had spent the last 40 hours without sleep. His eyes were red. His hands were shaking from too much coffee, but he had done his job perfectly. The hyperspace jump had been smooth. Every system on the ship was working. And more importantly, the rest of the fleet had arrived exactly as planned. Behind the Titan's Wrath came 3 more Colossal-Class Warships. The Earth's Fury was the oldest, built by Una's grandmother over 100 years ago. The Sol Invictus was the newest, completed just 5 years ago. The Pacific Dawn was named after the ocean where humanity had first learned to sail. Each ship was 12 kilometers long. Each ship carried enough weapons to destroy worlds, but the Colossal-Class ships were not alone. Behind them came 500 Dreadnought-class vessels. These were smaller ships, only 3 kilometers each, but they were faster and more agile. They were the backbone of humanity's military, designed to fight in large groups like wolves hunting together. 504 human warships hung in space above Nexus Prime, Their combined firepower could crack the station world like an egg. They could destroy every ship the Council owned. They could end galactic civilization with a single attack, but they did not fire. Their weapons remained cold. Their shields stayed down. Admiral Una Park had not come for war. She had come for something more valuable. She had come for respect. On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council stared at their sensors in horror. They had seen the Titan's wrath in Dreth's recordings. They thought they understood how powerful it was. But seeing one ship on a screen was different from seeing 500 ships outside their window. High Counselor Varix was the first to speak. How? How many? His sensor officer could barely respond. 504 vessels, High Counselor. 4 of them matched the profile of the ship from Counselor Dreth's report. The rest are smaller, but still larger than our biggest battleships. Where did they come from? How did the humans build so many ships without us knowing? No one had an answer. For 200 years, the Council had ignored humanity. They had decided that the creatures from the third planet of the Sol system were primitive. They had watched humans fight their small wars and build their simple rockets. They had laughed at human attempts to reach the stars. They were not laughing anymore. Ambassador Hannah Choi stood on the bridge of the Titan's wrath. She was wearing her best uniform, dark blue with golden buttons. Her hair was perfect. Her face was calm. She looked like someone going to a party, not someone facing the rulers of the galaxy. Open a channel to Nexus Prime, Hannah said. I want to speak to the entire Council. Communications Officer Nari Lee pressed the buttons. Channel open, Ambassador. You are broadcasting to every screen on the station. Hannah took a deep breath. She had practiced this speech 1,000 times. Every word was important. Every pause was calculated. She had one chance to make humanity's position clear. Representatives of the Galactic Council, Hannah began. I am Ambassador Hannah Choi of the United Earth Government. I bring greetings from 8 billion humans who have waited 200 years for this moment. On Nexus Prime, every alien stopped what they were doing. In markets and homes, in offices and ships, millions of creatures watched a human woman speak. 2 centuries ago, your council looked at our world and decided we were nothing. You drew lines on your star maps and declared that humanity had no rights to space. You left us alone in the dark, surrounded by species who saw us as prey. Raiders from a dozen worlds attacked our colonies. Pirates took our ships. And when we asked the Council for help, you told us to solve our own problems. Hannah paused. Her eyes were hard now, filled with old anger. So we did. We solved our problems in the only way you left us. We became strong. We built ships that could protect our people. We created weapons that could destroy our enemies. We prepared for the day when we would no longer be ignored. She gestured to the fleet visible through the windows. That day has come. We are no longer the weak species you dismissed. We are humanity, and we demand our place among the stars. We come not as conquerors, but as equals. We want to trade with you. We want to share knowledge with you. We want to build a future where all species can prosper together. Her voice grew softer, but no less powerful. However, if you refuse us, if you try to take from us what we have built, then you will discover what we created in those 200 years of darkness. You will learn what happens when humanity fights for survival. You will understand why our ships are called Colossal, and why our weapons make moons disappear. She smiled. It was a gentle smile, almost kind. We hope it does not come to that. We truly want peace. But the choice is yours. The transmission ended. Silence filled the council hall. Every representative sat frozen in their seats, processing what they had just heard. The humans were offering friendship, but the threat behind the offer was clear. Accept us as equals or face destruction. In the medical bay of the Titan's Wrath, Dr. Yoonji Beek prepared for a different kind of mission. She was the ship's chief medical officer, a woman of 45 with gentle hands and kind eyes. She had not joined the military to fight. She had joined to heal. Is everything ready? Admiral Park asked through the communication system. Yes, Admiral, Yoonji replied. We have medical supplies for every species in the Council. Vaccines for diseases that have been killing their populations for decades. Surgical techniques they have never seen. We can cure plagues that have ravaged their worlds for centuries. Good. Make sure the agricultural teams are prepared as well. They are. Our farms can produce enough food to feed billions. We have seeds that can grow in any climate, on any planet. If the Council accepts our friendship, we will end hunger across 100 worlds. This was humanity's true weapon. Not just the guns and the missiles, but the gift of life. The ability to heal and to feed. The power to create as well as destroy. Admiral Park knew that some species would never accept humans as friends. But others would see what humanity offered and choose peace. Strategic Officer Jin Kang worked on his console, preparing trade agreements and diplomatic papers. Security Chief Myra Huang coordinated with her teams, ready to protect the ambassador if negotiations went wrong. Every human on the ship had a job. Every human understood what was at stake. The Council had 12 hours to decide. 12 hours to choose between war and peace, between fear and friendship. The clock was ticking, and the galaxy held its breath. On the bridge, Admiral Park sat in her command chair and watched Nexus Prime slowly rotate below. She had done everything she could. Now it was up to the aliens to decide humanity's future. Do you think they will accept? J. Kim asked quietly. Yuna considered the question. She had studied these species for decades. She knew their pride, their fears, their hopes. She knew that some would never bend. But she also knew that most creatures, regardless of their shape, wanted the same things: safety, prosperity, a better future for their children. Some will, she finally answered. And that will be enough. We do not need the whole galaxy to accept us. We just need enough friends to make war too costly for our enemies. Jay nodded. And if they choose to fight anyway? Yuna looked at her fleet through the window. 500 ships, each one ready to defend humanity against anything the galaxy could throw at them. Her grandmother had built the first one. Her mother had built more. And now Yuna commanded them all. Then we will show them why they should have chosen peace. The 12 hours began to count down. And somewhere in the darkness beyond known space, something ancient stirred, awakened by the power that humanity had just displayed. The galaxy was changing, whether it wanted to or not. The vote took place in the Great Hall of the Galactic Council. 17 species would decide humanity's fate. Some had ruled the stars for thousands of years. Others had joined the Council only a few centuries ago. But today, they all faced the same choice. Accept the humans as equals, or prepare for war. High Councilor Varix called for order. The hall fell silent. Every seat was filled. Every eye watched the central platform where the voting would take place. The motion before us is simple, Varix announced. His voice was tired. He had not slept in days. Do we accept humanity into the Galactic Council with full rights, territories, and military independence? All who vote yes, raise your hands. The Lore Masters voted first. The Ancient Witness raised its thin arm without hesitation. The Lore Masters wanted peace. They had seen too many civilizations destroy each other. They did not want to see another war. The trading species voted yes. The Merchant Guild and the Star Runners both raised their flags. They understood what humanity offered: trade, technology, new markets worth trillions. War would destroy all of that. The peaceful agricultural species voted yes. The growers and the harvest people had no interest in fighting. They wanted to share seeds and farming knowledge with Earth. They wanted to learn about human crops and animals. One by one, more species voted to accept humanity. The scientific species wanted to study human technology. The artistic species wanted to experience human culture. The small species wanted protection from their larger neighbors. When the counting was done, 14 species had voted yes. The Volthrani abstained. Their pride would not allow them to openly surrender to humans. But they were too afraid to vote no. Councillor Dreth sat in his seat, staring at his hands, unable to face the reality of what had happened. The Dominari abstained. High Councillor Varix had wanted to fight, but his advisors had shown him the numbers. The human fleet was too strong. A war would destroy the hegemony. So Varix swallowed his anger and said nothing. The Kethra abstained. The insect warriors clicked their claws in frustration. They had never lost a war. They wanted to test themselves against these humans. But even they could see that this was a fight they could not win. Not yet. The motion passes, Varix announced. His voice was hollow. Humanity is now a full member of the Galactic Council. May the stars have mercy on us all. On the Titan's wrath, the crew cheered. 200 years of isolation had ended. Humanity had won its place among the stars without firing a single shot in anger. They had proven that strength and wisdom could achieve what violence could not. Admiral Una Park did not cheer. She sat in her command chair, watching the celebration with quiet satisfaction. This was what her grandmother had dreamed of. This was what her mother had worked toward. 3 generations of the Park family had given everything for this moment. And finally, their sacrifice had meaning. Ambassador Hana Choi prepared to travel to Nexus Prime for the formal ceremonies. She would sign treaties and shake hands with alien leaders. She would smile for cameras and give speeches about peace and cooperation. It was the job she had trained for her entire life. But before she left, something unexpected happened. A message came from the Lore Master section of Nexus Prime. The witness wanted a private meeting. It had information that it would only share with the human ambassador personally. Hannah traveled to the station alone. Escorted by Security Chief Myra Wang, they were taken to a small room deep inside the Lore Master section. The walls were covered with ancient symbols that no living species could read. The air smelled old, like dust and forgotten memories. The witness was waiting for them. It sat on a simple chair, its white robes spread around it like melting snow. Its silver mask reflected Hana's face back at her. "Thank you for coming," the witness said. "I have something important to tell you. Something that the other species must not know." "Not yet." Hana sat down across from the ancient creature. "I am listening." The witness was silent for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice was softer than before. "I told the council that your ships matched the designs of the architects. This was true, but I did not tell them everything. I did not tell them what the architects truly were. What were they? Builders, dreamers, the first species to travel between stars in this galaxy. They created the hyperspace gates that connect all our worlds. They built wonders that we still cannot understand. And then, 10,000 years ago, they disappeared. Why? Hannah asked. What happened to them? The witness leaned forward. Its mask seemed to glow in the dim light. They were called by something beyond this galaxy. Something older than the stars themselves. The architects left behind a prophecy, written in every language, on every world they touched. I have memorized these words for 10,000 years, waiting for this day. What does the prophecy say? The witness spoke slowly, as if each word carried the weight of ages. When the children of the third planet arise, the galaxy's long sleep ends. They will carry the fire of the builders. They will face the darkness that waits beyond. And if they are strong enough, they will become what the architects could not. Hannah felt cold despite the warm room. What darkness? What waits beyond? I do not know. The architects never said. But I know this. Your species was not meant to find our technology. You were not meant to learn our secrets. Yet somehow, you built ships that matched the architects' designs. You created weapons that we cannot understand. This is not coincidence. This is destiny. Back on the Titan's Wrath, Admiral Park received a strange report. Commander Dae-Yoon had detected something at the edge of known space. Something was moving in the darkness beyond the last stars. Something massive and ancient that had been sleeping for thousands of years. What is it? Yuna asked. Dae shook his head. I do not know, Admiral. Our sensors have never seen anything like it. But whatever it is, it started moving 3 days ago. 3 days ago. That was when the Titan's Wrath had destroyed the moon. That was when humanity had announced itself to the galaxy. Keep watching, Yuna ordered. And tell no one else. Not yet. Strategic Officer Jin Kang was busy drafting trade agreements with a dozen species. Security Chief Myra Huang was coordinating patrol routes with Council peacekeepers. Chief Engineer Su Han was finally getting some sleep after 40 hours of work. Dr. Yoonji Beek was preparing medical teams to visit alien worlds and share human healing knowledge. Humanity was building a future. They were making friends and establishing their place in the galaxy. But Admiral Park knew that this peace might not last forever. Something was coming. Something that the ancient architects had feared enough to flee the galaxy. When Ambassador Choi returned to the ship, she told Yuna everything the witness had said. The prophecy. The darkness beyond. The suggestion that humanity had been chosen for some great purpose. Yuna listened in silence. When Hannah finished, the Admiral stood and walked to the window. She looked out at the stars, at the distant lights of Nexus Prime, at the fleet of human ships that protected everything she loved. I did not build the Titan's Wrath for prophecies, Yuna said finally. I built it to protect my people. Whatever destiny the universe has planned, I will not accept it blindly. We are human. We choose our own path. And if this darkness comes for us... Yuna turned back to face her friend. Her eyes were calm, but there was fire behind them. The same fire that had driven her grandmother to start building impossible ships. The same fire that had kept humanity alive through 2 centuries of darkness. Then we will face it, Yuna said. We have spent 200 years preparing for threats we could not imagine. We have built weapons that can destroy moons and ships that can cross the galaxy. If something comes for us, we will be ready. She looked at the Titan's Wrath around her. 12 kilometers of human determination. 5,000 crew members who had dedicated their lives to protecting Earth. The galaxy's long sleep is ending, Yuna continued. The witness is right about that. Everything is about to change. But humanity will not be a victim of that change. We will be its masters. Outside the ship, the stars glittered in the eternal darkness. Some of those stars had been shining for billions of years. Others had died and been reborn. The universe was old beyond imagining, and humanity was young. But youth meant potential. Youth meant growth. Youth meant a future that had not yet been written. Admiral Yuna Park returned to her command chair. The first chapter of humanity's galactic story had ended. The Council had accepted them. The galaxy knew their name. But the next chapter was already beginning. Hidden in the shadows beyond known space, something ancient was waking up. And humanity would be ready when it arrived. The Titan's Wrath turned toward home, leading its fleet back to Earth. The crew had much to celebrate and much to prepare. The galaxy's long sleep was ending, and humanity stood ready at the dawn.